My fiance left me for the one that got away, but now wants me back. My fiance and I had been together for 3 years. He was my first boyfriend. We laughed, cried, worried, and were happy together. Our families had mixed really well. Our moms became close friends really fast. He was my best friend, my confidant, my support, my comfort. I looked at him and could see our future together. God, I'm even crying remembering one time we took a blanket, went outside, and looked up at the stars like in some book. I never thought something like this could happen to me. The man I loved could have never done anything like this to me. It all started about 2 months ago. His ex, high school sweetheart, together 7 years, moved back to our country and wanted to catch up with Mark. He told me they broke up because they were unable to sustain a long distance relationship when she left to pursue postgraduate studies. They had been in contact for about 5 years. She sent him an email, he showed it to me, and it was completely platonic. She was just curious about what he had become. He asked me if he could meet her, and I said yes. I trusted him. So he went. But when he came back, he was a bit withdrawn. He is usually really chatty, but he was dismissive when I asked him how it went. I let it go. However, the following weeks, he was often on his phone. He picked random fights with me and didn't look me in the eyes even when we slept together. Didn't whisper loving words either. I'm really touchy and clingy, and in our 3 years together, he had never once recoiled or refused my embrace, but he started doing it. I usually hug him like a koala when he comes back from work. I'm a bit childish, I know, but he only let me do it twice. It was such a sudden change. I asked him what was wrong, but he just said he wasn't feeling too good nowadays. On Saturday, I went to visit his grandma, and we usually knit together. She taught me, and I was gone the whole day. I feel really close to her because she adopted me easily and reminds me of my own who died when I was in high school. When I came back, I found him packing his stuff. My whole world fell apart. He was being so cowardly. He told me he was sorry for making me suffer like this, but sometimes life gives you a second chance and you have to recognize it for what it is. That he loved me, but when he met his ex, he realized that the feelings weren't the same. He said he regretted letting her go, that he had found himself again, that it had been a difficult choice for him, but he had to take this chance. His ex wanted him back. She had realized what she had lost and risked losing for good when he told her he was getting married. He supposedly refused her at first, but as time passed and they talked together, his old feelings came back. He hoped I would forgive him one day and understand. I cried as he was talking. It sounds stupid, but it was as if it was a stranger in front of me. He said he would still pay rent and part of the bills until our lease was up and I can find another place. He makes a lot more than me and I wouldn't be able to afford living in our apartment on my own. I begged him not to make this mistake, that he was being fooled by an idealized memory of their past together and that he was having cold feet. But he was like a wall. He didn't even look at me. At about 10 p.m., there was a truck outside with one of his friends waiting for him. He apparently came to help him move. I wasn't really close with that particular friend, but he did seem sorry for me. Mark hugged me goodbye and left. I hadn't cried that hard in years. I slept in our spare room, not to fill the emptiness of our room with his things gone. I sunk to the deepest pathetic I've been and tried to call him, but it went to voicemail. I had no idea where he went, but assumed he was now living with his ex after 3 weeks of talking again. How ridiculous. I'm really lucky to have supportive friends and family. My best friend even moved in for 5 days. My parents wanted me back home with them, but I wasn't ready to leave. Mark is a bit messy and I'm a manic, so it feels weird having everything perfectly neat. I missed his messiness. It was as if he was the one making our house a home. He used to joke about me wanting the house to look like it was on sale or in a catalog. Not waking up to make breakfast, not seeing him read lying on the sofa while I studied felt weird. Not buying his favorite snack or powder proteins when doing groceries felt weird. I felt really lost at first. It was like grieving. Usually when people break up, the relationship was going south, but to me, it came out of nowhere. I still loved him. I was still planning the wedding and working on my side to build our future together. It was all gone in a matter of a day. I wish I had been smarter and refused to meet his one that got away. His family was dumbfounded. I still went to see his grandma and she told me that he was a fool and that he would come back crawling to me. She was the first person who managed to make me laugh. His mom, my mom, and I started making calls to cancel all reservations. Luckily, the store accepted to take back the dress. We didn't pay much for the location as we canceled early. Next was to inform the guest. He had been gone for about 3 weeks then. His family was furious with him, so they didn't contact him much. The only contact I had with him was a signed check he made to cover the wedding cancellation. However, about a week ago, I received a letter from him. He apologized for leaving me like this, said he made the biggest mistake of his life, that he couldn't even believe what he had done, that he was writing me this letter because he didn't have the courage to face me. You were right, I was running after a perfect relationship that had never existed. I regret it so much. I thought I was in love with her, but in reality, I was in love with what she represented. My younger self with no responsibility and only dreams. I had cold feet and got afraid of moving forward into this new segment of my life. I couldn't stop thinking about you when I was with her. She is not you. She doesn't know me or love me like you. She doesn't smell like you. I missed hearing you sing randomly throughout the day. I missed having someone nagging me to pick up my stuff. I missed planning Halloween parties for the kids with you. At the time I'm writing this letter, we would have probably been decoration shopping had I not been a fool. Everyone told me I was being a blind fool. I would do anything to go back to the past and slap some sense into myself. I would do anything for you to forgive me. I know we have already started canceling everything, but I'm ready to pay for everything myself. You can date someone else to even the scores if you want, as long as you come back to me. He kept on with apologies and begging me to forgive him. Now, I told my family, left friends out for the moment, and his mom and grandma. Grandma had a very satisfying told you so moment. However, she is rooting for me to forgive him. His mom was supposed to send a formal letter to guests to tell them the wedding was off, but now is waiting for my answer. I don't know what to do. I love him with all of my heart, but what he did to me, I don't know if I can get over it. He made me feel worthless. He threw me away as if I was no one to him after 3 years. He gave up on us for some ghost from his past when we were at our happiest. If he can leave me when we are doing so good, how will we sustain a marriage? Will he leave the moment things get hard? He hurt me so badly and expect me to forgive him. He wants us to meet on Sunday, but I'm not sure. I'm willing to. I need some perspective. What would you do in my situation? Don't be someone's second choice. The right people don't need second chances. You deserve a lot more. And how do you know that his new or his first love isn't the one who sent him packing? And he's just crawling back to you because he has nowhere to go now. Honestly, like that, I get it's really hard, but like he like shattered it. Your relationship will never ever be the same. And I feel like if you do get married to him, you're gonna hold on to this for the rest of your life and you're never gonna be able to let it go.
My husband's ugly best friend ruined our engagement, so I laughed whilst he got deported. Story time. So me and my fiance Steve have been planning to get married. We have been together for 5 years, so agreed it was time to tie the knot. But there was just one problem. My husband's friend, Steve. Steve was from another country and he'd been living in ours for a few years. And he was legal because he was married, obviously, to this girl called Amy. Amy loved this guy so much, but I don't even think Steve liked her. I think he only married her so that he could get a green card. And Steve, I'm not gonna lie, he got lucky to find someone that would marry. He is not a nice person. He is a solid like 4 to 3 out of 10 on a good day. He has the personality of like a wet leaf and overall just had like really bad hygiene. I don't even really know how my husband was even friends with him because, ugh. So one day I was at home and I could hear my fiance on the phone to Steve. Steve was boasting about how he'd been cheating on Amy with another woman. He was like, I am so proud of being able to get another woman. I was shooketh. This man was cheating on what I can only say would be the only woman that would ever want to marry him. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of surprised that there's another woman on this planet that would want to get with him. I didn't really care too much for Steve's words, but it was my fiance's response that really wound me up. My fiance was cheering on Steve, saying how he deserves more than one woman and every man deserves to have more than one woman in his life. I have never felt rage like it. I just kept thinking that if my fiance was applauding someone for cheating, then he would probably cheat on me too. So as soon as my fiance left the room, I told him that I had heard everything and that I could not be with somebody that supported cheating the way that he just did. He then started spouting all of this bullshit about how he was gonna make it up to me at our wedding. I legit laughed in his face. I was like, you think there's a wedding, babe? This wedding is off, so you can go and tell all your friends and family to return the wedding gifts. So after ending it with my fiance, I wasn't done yet. I decided that I was gonna call up Amy, Steve's wife. Took my big old spoon and started stirring the pot. When she picked up the phone, I told her word for word the conversation that she'd had with my fiance. And as you can probably guess, she was furious. And I was like, babe, I'm so sorry. Like, what are you gonna do? Do you think you can work past this? She's like, no, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. And I was like, oh, what they say, hell knows no fury, like Orm's gone. So when Steve got home that day, Amy slammed divorce papers down on the table. And apparently Steve lost his shit. He was freaking the fuck out. He realised that his wife Amy was the only reason why he was allowed to stay in this country. And the INS took Steve away literally the day that those papers were signed. Amy even went as far as to send me the ring camera footage of when the police turned up. And I'm not gonna lie, it was the funniest thing I have seen in a very long time. Can I just say, I think this might be the most savage of all of the story times I've ever done. Let me know what you think. My sister sold my wedding ring so that she could pay for her honeymoon. Story time. So my sister and I literally never got along. She was literally always the golden child. She would constantly cry to my parents so that she could get her way. And my parents spoiled her like no other. Growing up, I literally hated the way she acted, but I tried to ignore it and just get on with my life. So one day when my parents were driving to work, they got in a really bad accident and we lost both of my parents. Of course, I was absolutely heartbroken, but in a way, I was kind of glad that there was no one there to spoil my sister anymore. However, sure enough, she found somebody else to leech on and she got a boyfriend. When she said jump, he said how high. And eventually they ended up getting engaged. Poor guy. And as you can probably imagine, my sister had big plans for this wedding. She got the most expensive dress, she got a massive venue, she got a caterer, went wild with the decorations. And she really wanted to cap it off with a honeymoon in Hawaii. With all the spending she'd been doing, she had run out of money. Who did she call to bail her out? 10 points if you guessed me. She called me. My sister knew that I was doing okay, my husband was very well off, and she had the audacity to ask me if I would give her the entire honeymoon for her wedding present. And yeah, I could 100% afford it, but was I gonna do it? No. There was absolutely no way I was doing that for her, the way she treated me and my parents growing up. This woman begged and pleaded, but there was no way I was giving in. A few days later, I returned home from work, and you know when you just feel like something is off with your house? Realised that my ground floor window was open, and I literally never opened that window, so it was not me. I was looking around and pretty much everything seemed normal, but then I found my jewellery box and realised that quite a few bits were out of place. And that was when I realised that my wedding band and my engagement ring had gone missing. And let's just say, it didn't take me long to work out who the culprit was as to where it had gone. So I made sure not to confront her right away. I wanted to get evidence. I was taking pictures. I even bought a fingerprint kit. A fingerprint kit, that's hard to say. And I used that to test the area. All this happened a week before her wedding. So 7 days later, I attend the wedding without saying a single word to anyone. Wedding was really nice, but she spent a lot of money, so of course it's gonna be nice. Then, the next day, she got on a flight to Hawaii, her dream honeymoon destination. Who was on the flight out afterwards? Me. So when I got into Hawaii, the first thing I did was get in touch with the police, and I gave them all the evidence that I had collected. They were able to confirm that my sister was in fact the crook based on her fingerprints. And when they asked me where they could find her, of course I told her, because she told me everything. She told me where she was going, what dinner reservation she was going to have, what hotel she was going to. So I made sure to arrive at this fancy restaurant at the same time as the police. I sat in the corner with like a proper little detective setup. I had a hat on, sunglasses, and I was snapping all of the pics. Ones of her getting into handcuffs. I got ones of her getting into the cop car. Just as she was looking out the window in the police car, she turned to me and I waved her goodbye. I wanted her to know that I was the one that had ratted her out. And as soon as I got back to my hotel, I sent all of the pictures to our friends and family. And now they no longer want anything to do with this pathetic little girl. Apparently her husband had absolutely no idea that this was going on. He was mortified by her behaviour and has left her already. And from what I know now, she lives in a tiny little apartment somewhere.
My ex-husband abandoned me and our kids. He instantly regretted it. My ex-husband was never much of a husband. It was always like he was going through the motions and doing as little as possible. As soon as the kids were born, he would make excuses to leave the house, then he would stay away as long as possible. He was always at his friend's house and never had a job. He was practically useless in a relationship. We went on this way for 10 years and finally decided to get a divorce. He didn't ask for custody, which was fine with me. He said that he wanted nothing to do with the kids and he wanted me to have all responsibility. Then one day my husband's mother called me. I never talked to her about how he abandoned us when they were growing up. She starts begging me to please let her son see the kids. She told me that he wanted to see his kids, but his evil wife wouldn't allow him to have custody or even see the kids at all. I set the record straight immediately. I told her what had really gone down. I explained to her that her son had never been much of a father and that he never wanted custody in the first place. She said that her son would never do that and he has been fighting this custody battle for the last 3 years. There was no convincing her that her son was a deadbeat, so I got him on the phone while she was there. He tried to deny everything and say he was always a good father, but I started mentioning all the times when he left the kids high and dry, like when he didn't come to their plays and soccer games. He continued to deny and make up excuses, but slowly his mother was getting quieter and quieter. I mentioned how when I was at work he wouldn't watch the kids. He would leave to go to the bar and come back home 5 minutes before I got home so I wouldn't get suspicious. At this point his mother was completely quiet. She knew the truth. All of a sudden she says that she is no longer his mother. She said that it is all her fault for raising such a useless scallywag. She said that she will never speak to him ever again and she will be telling the entire family about what a terrible human and father he is. When I went back to court I asked for more child support and they gave it to me. My ex-husband is now couch surfing in San Francisco and spending some nights on the streets. He is broke and none of our family wants anything to do with him anymore. Am I the jerk?
My girlfriend said no when I proposed as a joke, so I destroyed her life as a joke. My girlfriend Shelby, 24, and I had a good relationship. There was just one thing that bothered me. She made a joke out of everything. It's great that she has a sense of humor, but sometimes I like to be serious. Like I'll try on clothes and ask her if I look okay and she says, "No, you look terrible." So, I start hunting for new clothes because she sounds so serious. Then after a few minutes she says she's only kidding. Or I'll ask her if she could bring me a glass of water, and she will say no, but a minute later she gets up and brings me water. I'll ask her if she wants to eat. She says no. Then a minute later she starts listing off what she wants for dinner. Even though Shelby's habit was annoying, I loved her very much. In addition to being a great girl, she was also a successful business person. I knew we wouldn't have to worry about money if I got married. I truly loved her. This is when I decided I was going to ask her to marry me. I made a reservation at our favorite restaurant. I dressed up in a nice suit and bought a beautiful expensive ring. When dessert came, I knew it was time. I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. She said no. She told me she didn't think she was ready, and she even said that she thought I should get a better job. I could feel my heart sink in my chest. Everyone in the restaurant was looking at me. I was so embarrassed. I walked out right away. I was at the curb waiting for the valet when Shelby met up with me. She said that she was only kidding, and it was obviously a joke. She said that she wants to marry me. I was so mad about what happened and the way she let it go on. I said, "Forget it, I don't want to marry you anymore," and I left. Time went on and Shelby kept calling me. She begged me to forgive her. She said she still loved me. She also said if I took her back, she would change her ways, so finally I gave in. I started seeing her again, but I never totally forgave her. We were taking it slow, waiting to see if things would work out. One day Shelby asked me if I wanted to go out to dinner after work. I said sure. Where do you want to go? She mentioned the restaurant we went to when she turned down my proposal. We hadn't been there since we broke up. It had so many bad memories, I could barely answer her. Then she says, "Only kidding." She thought that whole day was a joke. I had enough. I was through. I told her I never wanted to speak to her again. Time had passed and I came home from work one day. When I got home and opened the light, my girlfriend's entire family was in our home. Once I looked down, I saw my girlfriend on one knee. She asked me to marry her. I stopped for a moment and looked around. Everyone was so excited, eager for me to answer. She clears her throat to get my attention. I look at her and say that I would never marry a girl like you in my entire life, and your family needs to leave immediately. I escorted everyone out of my house. She was so embarrassed. Later that day, she called me and said that the joke is over now. I said, "What joke?" and hung up. Am I the jerk? My mom grounded me for painting my nails, so I grounded her into divorce. I, a 17-year-old male, always liked to look different. It wasn't easy in a small town. People would stare at me and give me dirty looks. I knew it especially bothered my mother and my stupid stepdad, but I didn't care. I thought it was stupid to judge people based on their appearance. My mother would always tell me to dress normal and cut my hair, which was kind of messy and spiky, but I never listened. She used to be cool, but then she married my super conservative stepdad, so now she's always paranoid about what people think. The more I rebelled against them, the more she got on my case. One day she saw I was wearing black nail polish and she said that was the last straw. I am grounded for a year. I explained how stupid she was for caring about some nail polish, but she wouldn't answer. She was completely fed up. She said I would never get married or find a girlfriend if I dressed like this. I thought my mother wouldn't go through with it. She grounded me before and then it would be over the next day, but this time she was serious. She went through my closet and was ripping up my band tees, and put my skinny jeans in her closet because she said that they are only for girls. She also banned me from going to the My Chemical Romance concert that I had tickets for. I begged her to let me go, but she said no way. She wanted to control my life so bad, so now it is time to control hers. One day I was at home being grounded. My mother was out running errands. My stepfather came home from work and asked, "Where is your mother?" I was gonna say the real answer, but the light bulb lit up. "I don't know, she's probably out cheating on you," I answered. The words just came out of my mouth and I thought it was funny, but my stepfather the tool took me seriously. "Really?" he asked. "Yeah, I can show you proof. Give me a minute," I said. Then I ran up to my room. I quickly began working on a fake profile of a guy on Facebook. I used a random picture and name. I logged into my mom's account. I knew her password, and I started dummying this conversation of them talking about doing dirty things together and meeting in secret. Then I showed the conversation to my stepdad. He was completely shocked. He knows nothing about social media, so he had no idea how obviously fake it was. When my mother came home, my stepfather was waiting for her. He showed her the conversation. She said it wasn't her, but he didn't believe her. My stepfather demanded a divorce immediately. My mother was in tears. 3 days later he slammed the divorce papers on our dining room table. Am I the jerk?